What's up, everybody? Welcome to Gamer Zone XF, where gaming is our business and fun is our motto. I'm your host, Morgan.
No!
Not Morgan Freeman, but Morgan T, or MT for short. Today, we'll be taking a deep dive in the disassembling and cleaning of my old PlayStation 3. I think some serious TLC is well overdue. This is Bertha, or Big Bertha, as I like to call her, on the count of her
Great hole!
Bertha is my oldest console, and she's 16 years old. For perspective, that is older than most relationship these days. That is longer than Tekashi 69's Rapid Fire. That is longer than Wesley Snipes' prison sentence for tax evasion.
City boy! City boy!
Anyway, I purchased her during the summer of 2008 at GameStop in Sun Valley Mall in Pleasant Hill. These days, she is mostly used for watching movies, television shows, Netflix, and surfing the internet. On rare occasion, I might pop an old game in. I have always wanted to show her some love and care as she sat on the TV stand collecting dust, but was always afraid I would break her. Case in point, the little white scuff by the power button when I tried to pry her open once. Not to mention, she sounds like an F-35 fighter jet engine about to take off every time when turned on, so this is why I finally decided to clean her up. Before we get started, let's look at a brief history of the PlayStation 3 and its impact. With that said, let's get to it. 3, 2, 1.
And here we go.
After the massive success of both PlayStation 1 and 2, Sony Computer Entertainment officially announced the groundbreaking PlayStation 3 at the Electronic Entertainment Expo of 2005. PlayStation 3 featured a state-of-the-art Blu-Ray player, the all-new cell processor, an ultra-powerful graphics chip, a larger hard drive, and HDMI capabilities. The new technology embedded in the PlayStation 3 helped developers usher in a new era of deep, immersive, high-definition gaming. The launch of the PlayStation 3 also brought with it the launch of the PlayStation Network, which ushered in a new era of connecting gaming and entertainment for PlayStation fans with a massive library of downloadable titles, cloud storage for game saves, and a rollout of apps such as Netflix, YouTube, and more, as well as PS Plus, a subscription service offering gamers free monthly game releases, access to early betas, special discounts, and more. If driving the transition into a digital future wasn't enough, PlayStation 3 also brought with it a new way to play with the movie controller. This unique controller would help offer a new level of motion control gaming never before seen on a PlayStation console. Armed with its innovative technology, its motion control gaming experiences, games such as Uncharted and Little Big Planet, and its deep online network, PlayStation 3 continues to be the go-to destination for games and entertainment. There you have it, folks. The history of the PlayStation 3 and its impact on the gaming industry. Now that you know a little about the PlayStation 3's history, I think it's time to take this girl apart and see just how dirty she is on the inside. We start off by simply taking off the first T8 security screw, which is located on the left-hand side of the console, right here, as you can see, and then removing the cover that basically houses that hard drive. In order to take the hard drive out, you first have to take off the one screw that holds the hard drive in place, and once that is done, you can take out the drive. Look how dirty she is.
What did he say?
Let's take a closer look. Yep. Hard drive definitely needs to be cleaned up.
2 hours later.
After a quick wipe down of the hard drive, it looks almost new. Here's the comparison before
See, that's
and
what I'm
after
talking
cleaning.
about.
Now that that's taken care of, we start the real deep dive which begins with the removal of the top PlayStation cover. You remove the faceplate by simply sliding it towards you in the direction in which the hard drive housing is located. If you take a look at the back on the PlayStation, you can clearly see the dust that has accumulated over the years around the entrance of the different ports. That will have to be cleaned as well. Once the faceplate is off, you continue by removing the actual top cover by simply removing all the screws that hold the top cover in place. There are about 7 screws in total. Sue.
Good luck.
After you've taken out all the screws, you can remove the cover by simply tilting the back of the cover upwards towards you and lifting the whole cover. You can clearly see that dust has accumulated inside around the top cover, but not as much as you would have expected after 16 years. Let's place the top cover right here and take a closer look. As you can see, a little bit of dust has accumulated at the front entrance of the disk drive, or Blu-ray drive, if you will, and even more dust particles behind the power supply unit. In order to remove the power supply unit, you need to remove one screw over here, here, and here, and at the back next to the connecting cable. Once the screws are out, then you need to disconnect the cable that basically connects into the power supply component, which is back here. There are 5 screws in total. After you've taken them out, you can disconnect the cable by simply pushing down on the tab and pulling it straight out. It might be a little difficult if you have big hands like me. The 5th screw is very small, so be sure not to drop it or lose it. Afterwards, pull the power supply up towards you with both hands because the power supply is connected to 2 prongs. As you can see, a little dust has collected underneath the power supply unit and clearly inside of the unit based on the appearance. I'm probably gonna have to open this up too and clean it up. We'll get to that later. The disk drive is not screwed onto anything, so all you have to do is pick it up with one hand and turn it upside down and disconnect the ribbon cable attached to the bottom of the drive by flipping the black tab, as so. As you can see, dust has collected throughout the metal frame of the PlayStation, especially near the 2 prongs that hold the power supply unit in place.
What is that? Oh my God! What is that?
You didn't see anything, right?
After disconnecting the disk drive and the ribbon cable, we remove the board brace that separates the motherboard from the hard drive and the power supply by removing all the screws that hold the board brace in place. There are 11 screws in total, so be sure to remember where each one of those screws goes. To remove the hard disk drive cage, which is this thing right here, you have to give it a little wiggle and it will come right off. A little dust on the HDD cage, but not too bad. A little bit of rust on the shield that covers the USB and Wi-Fi controller, but nothing too serious. The next step is to disconnect the small ribbon cable that's connected to the motherboard, as well as the little wire that's connected to this little motherboard-looking thing.
What the fuck did I just hear?
That's not right. No.
slowly remove the board brace. Don't just pull it out unless you want to damage your PlayStation. You won't damage anything as long as you're careful and gentle with the different components. As you can see, the board brace is in good condition, so it doesn't really need that much cleaning, maybe a quick wipe down. But the motherboard, on the other hand, as you can see, is full of dust all over, and it's gonna take probably 3 Hail Mary to get this properly cleaned. You can remove the motherboard as well as the frame that holds it in place together, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. There's a little dust on the underside of the frame, but nothing too concerning. On a side note, when you rebuild, you're going to need to purchase and reapply thermal paste again. If you haven't noticed by now, as you can see, most of the thermal paste that was initially applied during the assembly process is practically gone. Finally, we get down to the last components of the PlayStation, which in this case is the fan, the heatsink, and the assembly housing. If you take a closer look, you can clearly see that the fan has collected a lot of dust, especially on the blades. Now, before we take the fan, assembly housing, and heatsink out, let's give it a quick wipe down so it's a little more presentable. In order to remove the fan, you have to remove the assembly housing, which is held in place by 3 screws. Once you have taken all the screws out, first take out the back cover of the PlayStation with all the different entrance port by simply lifting it up and pulling it out. If you take a quick look through the side of the assembly housing, you can clearly see dust and particle debris around the fan and heatsink. Now that the back cover is out, you can easily pull the fan and assembly housing out together by simply pulling it up towards you. You can see the blades are just covered in large amounts of dust that has collected over the years. The heatsink is probably the easiest part to remove and clean. All you have to do is pick it up out of the bottom case, since it's not screwed onto anything. Most dust on the heatsink, as you can see, is located in between the horizontal metal slats. Most dust that is not removed by the fan collects at the bottom half of the PlayStation casing and in between the heatsink's metal slat. And there you have it, folks. The bottom case from which the whole console is built from the bottom up. So much dust collected at the bottom of the case over the years, it literally created multiple ring circles. The next step is cleaning the actual fan, which is responsible for blowing air over the hot components of the console to dissipate the heat. It also helps blow dust particle out of the PlayStation. In order to remove the fan from the assembly housing, you have to take out the 3 screws that hold it in place. Once the screws are out, you need to use a tool with a flat surface, like I'm doing right now, to loosen it out. It comes right off once you have done that. After separating the fan from its housing, the next step is to get it cleaned thoroughly using a toothbrush, a thin cloth, or cotton swab, or all of the above for those hard-to-reach places. There you have it, folks, a 16-year-old fan after a proper cleaning session with a side-by-side before and after look comparisons. The fan helps to keep the temperature of the components within a safe range, ensuring the longevity of the console. The last component that requires a thorough cleaning is the power supply unit. In order to open it, you have to remove all 3 screws that are located on the underside of the unit. Once all the screws are out, we get a first-class view inside the big black box.
What's in the box?
The power supply unit, just like the rest of the PlayStation, is full of dust, as you can see. Given how close the little components that make up the power supply unit are to each other, this is the part where cotton swabs comes in handy when dealing with the hard-to-reach places. After a thorough wipe down of the interior and exterior of the power supply unit, it looks good as new. The casing doesn't have an ounce of dust, as you can see. Neither does the internal components, as you can see. Once it has been cleaned to your satisfaction, put the cover back on the power supply. Give it one more quick look over, and then proceed to the next task. The final task is to simply clean the motherboard and the metal frame that holds it in place. You first start by cleaning the metal frame. As you can see, most dust on the frame is located on the side where the entrance of the external ports are situated. A quick wipe down, and it's as good as new. There you have it, folks. A complete teardown and cleaning of the PlayStation 3 first-generation console. This calls for a celebration.
I'm joking.
We clean the back port panel, the motherboard, power supply, the fan, Blu-ray drive, and everything else. Not bad for a first-timer. Thank you for watching, and see you on the next video. In the famous words of Truman Burbank,
in case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.